The water around Ambassador Zethka turned dark red as another explosion shook the underwater city. Glass tubes that carried the life-giving current between the coral towers cracked and broke. Small fish that had lived in the walls for thousands of years now floated dead in the water. It single quotes. Ka pressed his webbed hands against the communication console as his people died around him. The Vorthons had been at this for 3 days now. Their crystal ships hung in the water above like deadly stars, dropping bombs that turned the beautiful bio-cities into rubble. "Sir, we have lost contact with the northern districts," reported his aide, a young female whose gills fluttered with fear. "The Vorthons are moving deeper into the city core." Zethka closed his large eyes for a moment. In the distance, he could hear the screams of his people as the crystal beings hunted them through the ruins. The Vorthons wanted the rare metals that grew in the bones of his people's living cities. They would take everything and leave nothing but empty water behind. "Send another message to the Galactic Council," he ordered. "Sir, they have already refused. They say the Vorthon Empire is too strong. They will not risk their fleets for us." Zethka felt anger burn in his chest. The Council had been happy to take the Kepler Federation's resources when times were good. Now that death came calling, they hid behind their laws and treaties. What about the Sothari, the Epsilon Collective? The Sothari say they are too busy with their art projects. The Epsilon Collective claims they need 6 months to prepare their ships. 6 months. Zethka laughed bitterly. His people would be extinct in 6 hours at this rate. The console beeped. Another message from the Council. Zethka read it quickly. The usual words about diplomatic solutions and peaceful negotiations. Empty words from people who had never watched their children die. He was about to close the message when he saw something at the bottom, a small note, almost hidden in the formal text. It was from Counselor Yethmi of the Tau Ceti Alliance. "There is one option you have not tried, the humans. They are new to space travel, but they have ships. Warning, they come from a death world. They are dangerous." Zethka stared at the words. He had heard stories about the humans. They came from a planet so deadly that most species could not survive there for more than a few minutes. The air was poison, the water was acid, and the gravity was crushing. The few council members who had made contact with them spoke in whispers about their violence and their strange ways, but they had ships, and they had weapons. Another explosion rocked the city. This one was closer. Zethka could see the orange glow of fire through the water. The Vorthons were burning the kelp forests that provided oxygen to his people. "Sir, the eastern wall has fallen. The Vorthons are inside the city." Zethka made his choice. He opened a new communication channel and began typing. His hands shook as he worked. What did one say to a species of killers? How did one ask monsters for help? He kept the message simple. His people were dying. The galaxy had abandoned them. Earth was their only hope. Far across the galaxy, on a small blue planet that most species avoided, Commander Jake Murphy sat in his chair at the Cheyenne Mountain Communication Center. The night shift was usually quiet. Most of the radio chatter came from their own satellites or the moon base. The console in front of him made a sound he had never heard before. A deep, pulsing tone that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Lisa, are you getting this?" he called to his partner at the next station. Communications officer Lisa Grant looked up from her coffee. "Getting what?" "The signal. It's not coming from any of our stations." Lisa moved to Jake's console and plugged in her headset. Her eyes went wide. "Jake, this is coming from outside the solar system." They listened together as the message played. The voice was strange, like someone speaking underwater, but the words were clear. The translator program that the scientists had built for theoretical first contact was working perfectly. "People of Earth, my name is Zethka of the Murdai. I speak for the Kepler Federation. We are under attack. Our worlds are dying. The Galactic Council has abandoned us. You are our last hope. We know you are new to the stars, but we have heard. You have ships and weapons. Please, if you can hear this, we are sending our coordinates. Our children are dying. Help us." The message repeated 3 times, then went silent. Jake and Lisa stared at each other. In all their years of service, they had never imagined this moment would come like this. Not with a plea for help from a dying civilization. "We need to get this to the Pentagon," Jake said. "Now, Jake, do you think we should? I mean, we don't know anything about these people. What if it's a trap?" Jake played the message again. He could hear the pain in the alien's voice, the desperation. This was not the voice of someone setting a trap. This was the voice of someone watching his world die. "We have to try," he said. "If we were in their place, wouldn't we want someone to help us?" Lisa nodded slowly. "You're right. But Jake, what if we're not ready for this? What if we go out there and we make things worse?" Jake looked at the star charts on his screen. Somewhere out there, people were dying. People who had never done anything to hurt Earth or humanity. They were asking for help from a species they had never met, from a world they called a death world. "Then we'll learn," he said. "But we can't just let them die when we might be able to help." He reached for the red phone that connected directly to the Pentagon. In a few minutes, this message would be on the president's desk. In a few hours, humanity would have to make a choice. For the first time in their history, they were being asked to be heroes. President Andrew Carter sat at the head of the long table in the Situation Room. The alien message played for the 4th time in the last hour. Around him, generals and advisors argued in heated voices. "We can't just charge into space because some fish people asked us to," said Defense Secretary William Hayes. "We know nothing about this conflict. For all we know, these Murdi could be the bad guys." "Did you hear that message?" shot back Admiral Kate Sullivan. "Those people are being slaughtered. Children are dying. And how many of our children will die if we stick our nose into an alien war?" Hayes fired back. Carter raised his hand and the room went quiet. He was a simple man who had never expected to deal with aliens during his presidency. But here he was, making a decision that would change humanity forever. "Admiral Sullivan, what do we have available?" Kate Sullivan stood and activated the wall. Display: 2 large ships appeared on the screen. The EDF Resilience and EDF Defiance are our newest deep space vessels. They were designed for Mars colonies, but we can arm them for combat. Each ship can carry 500 crew members and a full Marine battalion. How long to prepare them? 72 hours if we push hard. The ships are already loaded with supplies for the Mars mission. We just need to swap out the colonization equipment for weapons. General Patrick Moore leaned forward. "What about crew?" "These ships weren't designed for combat operations." "I have people in mind," Sullivan replied. "Captain Sam Parker commands the Resilience. He's seen combat in the Pacific Wars." "Captain Emma Rodriguez has the Defiance. Both are good officers who won't panic when things get bad." Carter looked around the room. Half the faces showed fear. The other half showed excitement. Humanity was about to take its first real step into the galaxy, and it would be through war. "What about ground forces?" Carter asked. Colonel Ryan Torres stepped forward. He was a big man with scars on his hands and a reputation for getting his people home alive. "I can have 2 battalions ready in 48 hours. Marines who have seen real fighting. We don't know what we're walking into, but my people will be ready." "Equipment?" "Standard assault rifles, rocket launchers, and enough ammunition to fight a small war. We're also bringing our new powered armor suits. If these Vorthans are as tough as the message suggests, we'll need every advantage." Carter nodded. "What about the science team?" Dr. Alex Turner, a thin man with thick glasses, cleared his throat. "I've assembled a team of xenobiologists and linguists. We need to understand these aliens if we're going to help them. Both our allies and our enemies. Can we even talk to them?" The translation program worked perfectly with the distress message. We should be able to communicate in real time. Carter stood and walked to the window. Outside he could see the lights of Washington. In a few days, those lights might be all that remained of human civilization if this mission went wrong. "Sir," Admiral Sullivan said quietly, "there's something else. We've been monitoring alien communications since we received the message. Other species are talking about us." "What are they saying?" They're calling us Deathworlders. Apparently. Earth is considered one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. Most aliens can't survive here. Carter turned back to the group. Is that good or bad? Unknown, sir. But they seem afraid of us. Across the country, in the shipyards of Houston, Chief Engineer Danny Brooks supervised the loading of weapons onto the EDF Resilience. The ship was beautiful, designed for exploration and colonization. Now they were turning it into a warship. Brooks, how are we looking? Captain Sam Parker asked as he climbed aboard. Good and bad news, Captain. Good news is these ships are tougher than anything we've built before. The hulls can take a beating. Bad news is we're guessing about everything else. Parker nodded. He was a man in his 40s who had commanded destroyers in Earth's last major war. But commanding a spaceship in an alien battle was something no human had ever done. What about weapons? We've mounted railguns on the main hull. They fire metal. Slugs at incredible speeds should punch through most armor. We also have nuclear missiles, but we don't know how effective they'll be against alien ships. Fighter craft? 20 attack shuttles per ship. They're fast and armed with machine guns and rockets. Not much compared to what the aliens probably have, but they'll have to do. In the barracks at Camp Pendleton, Colonel Torres addressed his Marines. They were hard men and women who had volunteered for the most dangerous mission in human history. Listen up, Torres said. In 48 hours, we're going to space. We're going to fight aliens. Some of you are going to die. The Marines listened in silence. They had all heard the alien message. They knew what was at stake. These Vorthans have been killing innocent people for days. The galaxy has decided to do nothing. That's not how we do things. When someone asks for help, we help. When bullies pick on the weak, we stop them. A young Marine raised her hand. Sir, what if we're not strong enough? Torres smiled grimly. Then we'll make ourselves strong enough. These aliens think we're dangerous because we come from a death world. Let's show them they're right. At the same time, in a listening post, orbiting Jupiter, alien signals flooded the communication arrays. The elegant Silthari were discussing the humans in their musical language. The Deathworlders are mobilizing, one transmission said. They believe they can help the Murdai. Impossible, came the reply. They have no shields, no energy weapons. Their ships are primitive. Perhaps, but they are willing to try when we are not. In another part of the galaxy, a Vorthan listening post picked up the human communications. The crystalline beings analyzed the transmissions with cold efficiency. The Deathworlders are coming, reported the Vorthan intelligence officer to his. Commander, how many ships? 2, perhaps 1,000 soldiers. The Vorthan commander laughed, a sound like breaking glass. 2 ships? Send a message to the fleet? Tell them to save a few humans alive. I want to study these famous Deathworlders before we crush them. Back on Earth, President Carter signed the authorization papers. Humanity was going to war. God help. U.S. all, he whispered as he watched the ships prepare for launch. The EDF Resilience dropped out of hyperspace above the Kepler system, and Captain Sam Parker felt his stomach drop with it. The alien star system spread before them like a battlefield from hell. Jesus Christ, whispered Lieutenant Commander Nick Foster at the tactical station. Look at that. Where the briefing materials had shown a peaceful system with blue-green planets and busy trade routes, Parker now saw destruction. Burning ships drifted through space like fallen leaves. The beautiful bio-cities of the Murdai homeworld were dark except for the orange glow of fires. Captain, we're receiving a transmission, reported Communications Officer Lisa Grant, who had volunteered for the mission after receiving the original distress call. Put it through. The screen flickered and showed Ambassador Zethka. The alien looked terrible. His skin was pale and cuts covered his face. Behind him, Parker could see other Murdai working frantically at damaged consoles. Human ships. This is Ambassador Zethka. Thank you for coming. We did not think anyone would answer our call. We're here to help, Parker replied. What's the situation? The Vorthans have destroyed most of our fleet. We have perhaps 20 ships left. They are systematically destroying our cities. We have maybe 6 hours before they reach the evacuation centers where our children are hiding. Parker studied the tactical display. The Vorthan fleet was massive. Dozens of crystal ships hung in space like deadly jewels. Each one was 3 times the size of his ship. How many Vorthan ships are we looking at? 47 combat vessels. Their weapons are energy-based and very powerful. Our shields cannot stop them. Foster looked at Parker with raised eyebrows. 2 human ships against 47 alien dreadnoughts. The odds were insane. "Captain," came a new voice on the comm. It was Captain Emma Rodriguez from the Defiance. "Are you seeing this?" "I see it, Emma. What do you think?" "I think we're about to find out what humans are really made of." Parker smiled grimly. "Nick, launch all fighters. Tell them to target the Vorthan ships attacking the planet. Emma, bring the Defiance around to the left flank. We'll hit them from the right." "Sir," Foster said quietly, "those ships are huge. Our weapons might not even scratch them. Then we'll scratch them harder." The 20 attack shuttles launched from both human ships like angry wasps. Lieutenant Commander Foster led the first squadron, diving toward the Vorthan fleet at maximum speed. The first thing that surprised the Vorthans was the humans' approach. Instead of the careful, measured attacks they expected from civilized species, the human fighters came straight at them with no regard for their own safety. "This is Falcon Leader," Foster reported over the comm. "Beginning attack run on target." Alpha. The Vorthan ship was beautiful in a cold way, all crystal surfaces and geometric patterns. It was also the size of a city block. Foster's shuttle looked like a toy in comparison. "Falcon Leader, you are too small to damage our ships," came a transmission in perfect English. "Surrender now, and we will make your deaths quick." "Thanks for the offer," Foster replied, "but we're good." He fired every weapon his shuttle had. Machine gun rounds, rockets, and a small nuclear warhead all hit the Vorthan ship at the same time. The aliens had expected the attack to bounce off. Their hull like raindrops dot, instead the crystal surface cracked. The nuclear warhead, primitive by galactic standards, sent shockwaves through the crystalline structure that the Vorthans had never experienced before. The entire ship rang like a bell, and chunks of crystal began to break away. "Impossible," the Vorthan commander said as his ship shuddered. "Their weapons are primitive. They should not be able to damage us." "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the Deathworlders are not using energy weapons. They are using kinetic impacts and chemical explosives. Our hulls are not designed to absorb that kind of stress." The Vorthan commander was about to respond when the EDF Resilience opened fire with its main guns. The railgun rounds hit the crystal ship like hammers, each impact sending cracks racing across the hull. "All ships, concentrate fire on the Deathworlder." "Vessels," the Vorthan commander ordered. "Show them the power of the Empire." Energy beams lanced out from the Vorthan fleet, lighting up space like a laser show. The human ships twisted and turned, using their smaller size and higher speed to avoid the worst of the attacks, but they couldn't avoid everything. The Resilience took a direct hit to its port side, and the ship shook like a toy in a child's hands. "Damage report," Parker shouted over the alarms. "Hull breach on deck 7. We've lost 2 gun turrets, and the port engine is running at 60%. Can we still fight?" "Yes, sir. But we can't take many more hits like that." Parker looked at the tactical display. The human fighters were doing better than expected, but they were still outnumbered 20-1. The Defiance was holding its own, but both human ships were taking damage. Then something unexpected happened. The remaining Murdai ships, inspired by the humans' desperate courage, began to attack as well. They had been retreating for days, but seeing the humans fight against impossible odds gave them new hope. "Human ships, this is Commander Veltar of the Murdai fleet. We are moving to support you." "Negative," Parker replied. "Your ships can't handle their weapons. Stay back and protect the evacuation centers." "Captain Parker, we will not hide while you die for our world. We fight together or we die together." The Murdai ships joined the battle, their bio-organic hulls glowing as they charged their weapons. They were still outgunned, but now the Vorthans faced attacks from multiple directions. The battle raged for 2 hours. Human fighters darted between the massive crystal ships like gnats, stinging and retreating. The larger human ships used their railguns to crack Vorthan hulls while the Murdi provided cover fire. The Vorthans began to realize they were fighting an enemy unlike any they had faced before. These humans didn't retreat when they were hurt. They didn't surrender when they were outnumbered. They just kept fighting. "Sir," the Vorthan tactical officer reported, "we have destroyed 3 of the smaller human craft, but they keep attacking. They seem to have no fear of death." The Vorthan commander watched as a human fighter, its hull on fire and its weapons destroyed, rammed itself into one of his destroyers. The explosion cracked the crystal ship in half. What kind of species sacrifices itself for strangers? He wondered aloud. The answer came from Captain Rodriguez as the Defiance, heavily damaged and venting atmosphere, charged straight at the Vorthan flagship. "The kind that doesn't run from bullies," she said over the open com channel. "The Galaxy." Was about to learn what humans meant by the word stubborn. Sergeant Tony Blake kicked open the airlock door and stepped into the Vorthan ship. The air inside was thick and poisonous, filled with chemicals that would kill most species in minutes. Blake breathed it like it was fresh mountain air. "This is easy compared to Venus training," he said into his cum as his squad followed him through the breach. Behind him, Marines Pete Johnson and Carol White moved with their weapons ready. The inside of the crystal ship was beautiful and deadly. Sharp edges everywhere, surfaces that cut like razors, and gravity so light that most humans would float. But Blake's team had trained in low gravity for months. They moved through the alien corridors like they owned the place. "Contact front," Johnson called out as 3 Vorthan warriors came around the corner. The crystal beings were tall and elegant, their bodies made of living stone that reflected light like diamonds. They carried energy weapons that could melt through ship hulls. They were also completely unprepared for humans. Blake's shotgun roared in the narrow corridor. The blast shattered the lead Vorthan's chest like glass hitting concrete. The other 2 tried to retreat, but White was already moving, her assault rifle chattering as she put rounds into their backs. "Clear," she reported. "These things break. Easy when you hit them right." "Keep moving," Blake ordered. "We need to find their engine room." The Vorthans had ruled the galaxy for 300 years. They were used to fighting civilized species who followed rules of war. Species who surrendered when they were outgunned. Species who died when exposed to toxic environments. Humans did none of these things. In the ship's command center, the Vorthan captain watched his security cameras in horror as the human boarding party moved through his vessel. The Deathworlders were operating in an atmosphere that should have killed them instantly. They were fighting in gravity that should have made them helpless, and they were winning. "Send more warriors to Section 7, he ordered. "Sir, we have already lost 12. Soldiers to 3 humans. Perhaps we should evacuate this section and seal it off." The captain's crystalline face showed confusion. 3 humans? "Only 3? Yes, sir. They appear to be enjoying themselves." On the surface of the Murdi homeworld, Major Gary Stone led his Marines through the ruins of what had once been a beautiful city. The Vorthans had built mining platforms here, massive machines that tore the living coral apart to get at the rare metals inside. "Ugly as hell," commented Corporal Linda Hayes as she looked at the industrial equipment. "No wonder the fish people are pissed," Stone nodded. The Vorthans had turned a work of art into a strip mine. Thousands of years of growth destroyed in days. It made him angry, and angry humans were dangerous humans. "Alpha Team, take the left platform. Bravo Team, you're with me on the right. Charlie Team, watch our backs." The assault began with rocket launchers. Human weapons designed to destroy tanks on Earth worked just as well on alien mining equipment. The first platform exploded in a shower of crystal and metal. Vorthan soldiers poured out of the remaining platforms, their energy weapons lighting up the underwater battlefield. They expected the humans to take cover, to fight defensively like civilized soldiers. Instead, the Marines charged. Stone led from the front, his powered armor absorbing energy blasts that would have vaporized an unprotected human. Behind him, His people moved like they were born for this fight. The heavy gravity of Earth had made them strong. The poisonous atmosphere of Earth had made them tough. The violent history of Earth had made them fearless. "These Deathworlders are insane," one Vorthan soldier reported to his commander. "They run toward our weapons instead of away from them." "Kill them all," came the reply. "We are trying, sir." "They will not die." Dr. Amy Chen crouched behind a piece of rubble as energy blasts flew over her head. She was not a soldier, but she was a doctor, and there were wounded people who needed help. The fact that some of those people were aliens did not matter to her. "Hold still," she told the injured Murdai beside her. The alien had been shot in the side by a Vorthan weapon. The wound was bad, but Ching had seen worse. "You should not risk yourself for me," the alien said in broken English. "I'm not your species." "Doesn't matter," Chun replied as she bandaged the wound. "You're hurt. I'm a doctor. That's all I need to know." The Murdai stared at her with large, intelligent eyes. "Your people are very strange." "Yeah, we get that a lot." A Vorthan soldier appeared around the corner, his weapon raised. Chun drew her sidearm and put 3 rounds in his chest before he could fire. The crystal being fell backward, his body cracking like broken pottery. "But we're useful in a fight," she added. Back in space, Captain Parker watched the tactical display as the battle continued to rage. The human fighters had destroyed 6 Vorthan ships, but they were taking losses. The Defiance was badly damaged, and his own ship was running on backup power. "Sir," Foster reported from his fighter, "I'm seeing something weird." "The Vorthans are pulling back from the planet." Parker studied the display. Foster was right. The Vorthan ships that had been bombarding the surface were moving away from the world. Why would they do that? The answer came from Colonel Torres on the ground. "Captain, we've taken all their mining platforms. The Vorthans are abandoning the surface. I think we're winning down here." Parker could hardly believe it. Human ground forces were pushing back an alien army that had conquered dozens of worlds. But then he remembered where his people came from. Earth was a world where everything tried to kill you. Humans had learned to fight back against impossible odds because that was the only way to survive. "All ships, press the attack," he ordered. "The Vorthans are retreating. Don't let them regroup." The human fighters dove at the crystal ships like hawks attacking prey. The railguns of the larger ships hammered at Vorthan hulls. And on the surface, human marines hunted down the remaining alien soldiers with ruthless efficiency. The Vorthan fleet commander watched his forces crumble and finally understood what he was facing. These humans were not just another species. They were the product of a world so deadly that it had forged them into perfect warriors. They did not fight to conquer. They fought to protect. And that made them more dangerous than any weapon his empire had ever faced. "Send a message to the Emperor," he ordered. "Tell him we have encountered the Deathworlders. Tell him we need reinforcements." "How many ships, sir?" The commander looked at his tactical display. 2 human ships and a handful of fighters were destroying his entire fleet. "All of them," he said quietly. "Send all of them." The Vorthan reinforcements arrived like a storm of crystal and death. 50 more ships dropped out of hyperspace. Led by the massive dreadnought Emperor's Wrath, Captain Parker watched the new arrivals on his tactical display and felt his blood run cold. "Jesus," whispered Foster from his fighter. "Where did they all come from?" "Captain Parker," came a transmission from the Vorthan flagship. The voice was cold and sharp like breaking ice. "I am War Commander Kethvil of the Vorthan Empire. You have interfered with our conquest for the last time." Parker looked at his bridge crew. The Resilience was badly damaged, with fires burning on 3 decks. The Defiance was even worse off, barely holding together. They had maybe 20 fighters left out of the 40 they started with. "War Commander," Parker replied. "You're the ones who started this by attacking innocent people. We're just here to stop you." "You cannot stop the Empire, Deathworlder. We have conquered 100 worlds. Your 2 ships are nothing against our might." "Maybe," Parker said, "but we're going to try anyway." The new Vorthan fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams lanced through space like spears of light. The human ships twisted and turned, but there were too many weapons, too many angles of attack. The Defiance took 3 direct hits to its engine section. Captain Rodriguez's voice came over the calm despite the chaos around her. "Sam, we're done. Engines are dead, weapons are offline, we're drifting. Emma, can you evacuate your crew?" "Negative. The Vorthans are jamming our transporters. We're trapped." Parker watched helplessly as a Vorthan cruiser moved toward the crippled Defiance. The alien ship's weapons were charging for a killing blow. "Sam," Rodriguez said quietly, "tell my kids I love them." "Emma, don't do anything stupid. Too late for that." The Defiance suddenly came alive again. Not its weapons or engines, but its emergency thrusters. The ship turned toward the approaching Vorthan cruiser and began to accelerate. "All hands, brace for impact," Rodriguez announced to her crew. "It's been an honor serving with you." The Defiance struck the Vorthan cruiser at full speed. The explosion lit up the dark of space like a newborn star. When the light faded, both ships were gone. "Emma!" Parker shouted, but there was no answer. The Defiance and her crew of 300 brave souls had vanished into atoms in memory on the planet below. Colonel Torres felt the ground shake as debris from the space battle began to fall from the sky. He and his Marines were trapped in the ruins of a Murdai city, surrounded by Vorthan soldiers who wanted revenge for their losses. "Colonel," reported Sergeant Blake over the "we're running low on ammunition. The Vorthans have us surrounded." Torres looked at his tactical display: 300 Marines against 2,000 Vorthan soldiers. The aliens had hover tanks and energy weapons. The humans had determination and rage over the loss of the Defiance. "All units, this is Torres. We just lost 300 good people up there. I don't know about you, but that makes me angry. And angry Marines are dangerous Marines." "Sir," came a voice from one of his platoon leaders. "What are your orders?" "We're going to do what Marines do best," Torres replied. "We're going to attack." The human charge began with rocket launchers and grenades. Torres led from the front, his powered armor smoking from energy weapon hits. Behind him, his Marines moved like a wave of destruction through the alien positions. The Vorthans had never seen anything like it. These Deathworlders were wounded, outnumbered, and outgunned, but they fought like demons. They used the ruins of the city as weapons, throwing chunks of coral and metal at their enemies. They turned every piece of debris into a bomb. "Fall back," ordered the Vorthan ground commander. "These humans are not sane." In space, engineer Ben Scott worked frantically in the engine room of the Resilience. The ship was dying around him, but he refused to give up. He had an idea, a crazy idea that might just work. "Captain," he called over the "I can give you one more shot, but it's going to cost us everything." "What do you mean?" "I can overload our reactor and channel all the power into the railguns. It'll give us enough juice to punch through their flagship's shields. But the ship will be destroyed in the process." Parker looked around his bridge. Half his crew was dead or wounded. The other half looked back at him with steady eyes. They knew what he was going to decide. "Do it, Ben." Commander Rachel Green led the final fighter attack against the Vorthan flagship. She had 12 ships left, all of them damaged, all of them running on fumes and stubbornness. "This is for the Defiance," she said as her fighters dove toward the massive crystal ship. The Vorthan point defense systems lit up space with defensive fire. 3 human fighters exploded in the first few seconds. Green's own ship took a hit that knocked out her engines, but she kept flying on momentum alone. "Green, get out of there," Parker ordered. "Negative, Captain. I'm almost through their defenses." Green's fighter, trailing fire and debris, slammed into the Vorthan flagship's shield generator. The explosion was small, but it was enough. The shields flickered and died. "Now, Ben!" Parker shouted. The Resilience fired its railguns with every ounce of power the ship had left. The metal slugs hit the Vorthan flagship like the fist of an angry god. The crystal hull cracked, then shattered, then exploded outward in a shower of deadly fragments. War Commander Kethful had just enough time to send one last message to the Vorthan Emperor before his ship died around him. "Your Majesty," he said, "the Deathworlders are more dangerous than we thought. They do not fear death, they embrace it, they turn it into a weapon." The Emperor's wrath exploded like a dying star, taking a dozen smaller Vorthan ships with it. The remaining alien fleet, shaken by the loss of their flagship, began to retreat, but the battle was not over. The Vorthan Emperor himself was coming, bringing with him the full might of the Empire, and Captain Parker, alone on his dying ship, would have to face him with nothing but courage and the knowledge that sometimes the smallest light can drive back the darkest night. The Vorthan Emperor's ship was the size of a city. It dropped out of hyperspace like a mountain of crystal and death, followed by the largest fleet the galaxy had ever seen. 200 warships spread across the star system like a plague of locusts. Captain Parker stood on the bridge of the dying Resilience and watched his certain doom approach. Half his ship was dark, his crew was down to skeleton numbers, and he had maybe 6 fighters left. Against him came the most powerful being in the galaxy. "Captain," Communications Officer Grant said quietly, "we're receiving a transmission." The screen flickered and showed the Vorthan Emperor. He was beautiful in the way that sharp things are beautiful. His crystalline body reflected light like a prism, and his eyes were cold as the space between stars. "I am Emperor Zarthik, ruler of 1,000 worlds, master of the Crystal Throne. You have cost me ships and soldiers, Deathworlder. For this you will suffer before you die." Parker looked at the alien ruler and felt no fear. He was too tired for fear, too angry for anything but defiance. "Your Majesty," he said with mock politeness, "you're the one who started this by attacking innocent people. We're just here to finish it." The Emperor's laughter sounded like glass breaking. "Finish it? You have one damaged ship against my entire fleet. You have lost, human. Surrender now, and I will kill you quickly." "Thanks for the offer," Parker replied, "but I think we'll keep fighting. Impossible. You cannot win." "Maybe not," Parker said, "but we're too stubborn to quit." Behind the Emperor, his advisors whispered urgently. They had studied the human attacks, analyzed their tactics, tried to understand their strategy. They had found no logic in human behavior, no rational explanation for their actions. "Your Majesty," one advisor said, "perhaps we should negotiate. These Deathworlders fight differently than other species." "Negotiate?" The Emperor's voice rose in anger. "I do not negotiate with insects." On the surface of the Murdi homeworld, Colonel Torres and his remaining Marines had linked up with the surviving alien defenders. The humans and Murdi fought side by side in the ruins of the Crystal Cities, united by their refusal to surrender. "Colonel," reported Sergeant Blake, "the Vorthans are pulling back to their landing zones." "I think they're getting ready to evacuate," Torres nodded. His people had fought the impossible fight and won. 300 Marines against an army, and they had driven the enemy back through sheer determination and righteous anger. "Let them go," he said. "We've made our point." In space, Admiral Sullivan arrived with the rest of Earth's fleet. 20 ships, not much compared to the Vorthan Armada, but enough to turn the tide. With her came volunteers from across human space. Miners from the asteroid belt, colonists from Mars, even civilian ships armed with whatever weapons they could. "Fine, Sam, this is Kate Sullivan. Sorry, we're late to the party." Parker felt hope stir in his chest for the first time in hours. "Kate, you picked a hell of a time to show up." "Wouldn't miss it? What's the situation?" 200 Vorthan ships, led by their Emperor himself. He wants to make an example of us? "Well," Sullivan said grimly, "let's give him one he won't forget." The human fleet spread out around the Resilience like a protective wall. They were still outnumbered 10 to 1, but numbers had never stopped humans before. Then something amazing happened. Ships began arriving from across the galaxy. First came the Tau Ceti Alliance, their sleek vessels gleaming in the starlight. Then the Epsilon Collective, their bioships pulsing with organic light. Even some Sothari vessels appeared, their crews finally shamed into action by human courage. "Captain Parker," came a transmission from the lead Tau Ceti ship, "we cannot let you fight alone. What you have done here today has inspired the galaxy. The Emperor stared at his tactical display in disbelief. The cowardly species who had refused to help the Murdi were now rallying to support the humans. His certain victory was becoming uncertain. "Attack," he roared. "Destroy them all." The battle that followed was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships charged straight into the Vorthan lines while their alien allies provided support fire. The Emperor's flagship unleashed weapons that could crack planets, but the humans refused to break. Captain Parker, his ship barely holding together, led a desperate charge straight at the Emperor's vessel. Around him, human fighters swarmed the crystal dreadnought like angry bees attacking a bear. "All ships, concentrate fire on their flagship," Sullivan ordered. "Take down that bastard Emperor." The combined fleet hammered the Emperor's ship with everything they had: human railguns, alien energy weapons, and even ramming attacks from damaged vessels that could no longer fight any other way. The Emperor's ship began to crack under the assault. Warning lights flashed throughout the bridge as his perfect vessel suffered damage for the first time in its existence. "Impossible," the Emperor whispered. "My ship is invincible." "Your Majesty," his tactical officer reported, "the Deathworlders are using combined arms tactics. They coordinate their attacks with the other species. We have never faced such cooperation before." The Emperor finally understood. The humans had not just brought their own strength to this battle. They had brought something more dangerous than any weapon. They had brought unity. They had shown the galaxy that different species could fight together against a common enemy. "Retreat," he ordered. "Signal the fleet to withdraw. Your Majesty, you heard me. We cannot win this battle. The Deathworlders have changed the rules of war." As the Vorthan fleet limped away into hyperspace, the galaxy watched in amazement. The mighty empire that had conquered 100 worlds had been driven back by humans and their new allies on the bridge of the Resilience. Parker received a transmission from Ambassador Zefka. The Murdi leader looked tired but hopeful. "Captain Parker, on behalf of the Kepler Federation and all free species, I thank you. You have saved not just our world, but our faith in what is possible when good people stand together." Parker nodded. "That's what neighbors do, Ambassador. When someone needs help, you help them. The Galactic Council wishes to offer humanity membership, not as junior partners, but as protectors of the weak and defenders of the innocent." Parker smiled. It had been a long road from that first desperate message to this moment. Earth had announced itself to the galaxy not through diplomacy or trade, but through courage and sacrifice. "We'll consider it," he said, "but there's one condition." "What is that?" "No more bullies. When someone calls for help, we answer, all of us." The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon is not the biggest gun or the strongest shield. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon is a species that refuses to quit, refuses to abandon their friends, and refuses to let evil win without a fight. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through conquest, but through compassion. And the universe would never be the same